But the problem here in Newry isn't just the usual one of itinerants creating an unsightly mess and upsetting some of the local residents. The building behind me there is the FMC meat factory. It's a slaughterhouse and packing plant employing about 250 men. And there's now said to be a very real danger that that factory could have to close down because of what the Department of Agriculture calls a serious health hazard to the plant. In a letter from the department to the local council last August, the department spoke of a lack of sanitary conveniences and said the disposal of waste food and other garbage by the itinerants encouraged the breeding of flies and rats and other vermin, and that was a threat to the meat packing plant. You know there's been a complaint that the conditions here are so unsanitary that it threatens the meat factory, which is just behind us.
Yeah.
Well, don't you agree that you are a real hazard to that factory?
Yeah, but see, no other place to go to. Just any place we just could.
And
stay,
you've got,
you know?
have you any sanitary arrangements here?
No.
So is all your rubbish just left lying around?
No, we cleaned it up though.
No, my father puts it on in a heap and then he puts in the line, brings that up to the dump, you know?
The principal hazard, I would say, is infectious disease, particularly rat-borne infectious diseases, a disease known as Weil's disease, which is particularly liable to be picked up from rats. And we have, as you've heard these people say, quite a population of rats in this area.
And what leads to this disease? Is it inadequate refuse disposal or sanitation or what?
Well, it's a combination of throwing food about, probably collection of rubbish, and the proximity of the river.
And what about particular hazards to children?
Well, children are less hygiene conscious. They're not hygiene conscious at all. They simply neglect ordinary precautions. They don't wash their hands, and they're liable to come into contact with rat droppings, for instance.
For this particular type, no. Our concern is mainly with the traditional type gypsy, if you like, and these people are in a very small minority. I think it runs to only something like a dozen families, and certainly we would hope at some time to be able to provide a site for these people. But for the people who are apparently well able to afford to look after themselves, we don't feel any obligation whatever. We have been concerned with this right from the inception of the council, and we have been very busy over the last 18 months seeking out and looking at alternative sites. But of course it creates all sorts of problems.
Well, like what? Is there local antipathy?
Obviously objection from neighbours where they're going to be, and of course the acquisition of land is very difficult.
But where will they go if you can't provide a site for those of them who make a living?
Well, it's unfortunate that we have to say at this time that that is not our concern. Our main concern is with the health hazard attaching to their site down beside the factory. We wish them to move from there. It is not an obligation of ours, and indeed no great concern of ours as to where they go after that.
Well, when do you plan to evict them from the site?
I would say that will be in the very near future.
And how will you evict them?
It was decided on Monday night. In fact, the decision had been taken at an earlier date that we would have to take whatever means necessary.
Do you know what that means?
Well, it may mean using the police in order to evict them from the site.
Can you tell me why you're living in a site like this in the first place?
Can't get no houses.
You'd like to live in a house, would you?
Yes.
All the rest of you, do you want a house? Because, I mean, normally itinerant people say they want to keep, on the move or live in caravans or something.
We were 6 years living in a house. And no one counted it all.
Oh, you were? And what, you're living in this sort of canvas hut now, are you?
There with 12 children.
With 12 children?
Yes.
Well, how do you manage for sanitary arrangements? What do you do with your rubbish, that sort of thing?
Into the canal.
Into the canal?
Yes.
Surely it's dangerous, isn't it, for you and for the kids?
It's very dangerous for the children.
Now, how do you make your living? Can I ask one of you?
I sign on the labour.
You sign on the labour? There's been a complaint by some local people that you're often seen begging around the town, not necessarily you, but some of you. You beg?
Aye, in the town. I have to do it.
Do you have a husband?
I have. He's signing, but he's not getting paid.
He's not getting paid any dole money?
No money. Not $2.90 to keep 5 children and myself and my husband.
Well, the council say that you're going to have to move on. They hope to get a permanent site for some of you, but if they don't, you're going to have to move on.
Still stay here.
Even though it's a health hazard to yourselves and to everybody else.
If there's a better place to go, we'll go. But if there is a better place, we won't go. If the pull is out, we'll still come back.